Coming out, we're going to get this memorial started here. So as many of you know, we've had 19 overdoses here in Columbia County in 2016 alone. This is a problem that is not just ours, it's nationwide, and it's not going to go away overnight. And we need to start a kind of a community dialogue. There's a lot of movers and shakers here, people that have been on the front lines of fighting the war on drugs. And we're going to hear from some of them tonight and have a minute to network and kind of get a community dialogue running. So first up, we have State Representative Dave Millard.
Thank you, Dave. And before I go further, looking at the crowd here tonight, Dave put this together. I think he deserves a good round of applause for bringing us all together. Ladies and gentlemen, Pennsylvania is in the middle of a deadly epidemic.
In 2015, over 3,300 Pennsylvanians died from overdose of drugs. That number represents a more than 23% jump from 2014. Our state now leads the nation in drug overdoses among men aged 20 or aged 12 to 25. Deaths of adults ages 55 to 64 have increased sevenfold from 1999 to 2013. Deaths in women during the same period of time have increased 400%. Opioids are a class of drugs derived from or pharmacology similar to opiates and are on the rise as a cause of drug addiction and death in Pennsylvania. While these analgesics are the most effective pharmaceuticals for killing pain, they carry with them a significant risk of addiction. According to a recent report, 20 to 30% of opioids prescribed for chronic pain are being misused. Despite popular opinion, experts agree that opioid abuse and addiction affects all groups of Pennsylvanians, not differentiation by race, religion, region, income, or any other factor. So to combat the crisis, in June, the Speaker of the House and the Governor called on the House Majority and the Minority Policy Committees to work together to host hearings throughout the state to prepare for a potential special session in Pennsylvania's opioid epidemic. Those hearings were conducted all through the summer at the conclusion of our summer recess, and they were held all across the state. When we came back into session the end of September, the governor called a special joint session of the Senate and the House to deal with legislation that had been put together as a result of all of those hearings. Legislators who attended had the opportunity to hear testifiers' recommendations. And some of those people who testified were from the physicians, educators, public awareness individuals, people who work in our community services groups, those that provide access to quality treatment and care, those involving the insurance companies, the privacy laws were addressed, criminal justice issues were addressed, so that when this legislation was put together, that it would address all of these things. A lot of times as legislators, when laws are passed, we try to do one thing that's good, but we tie the hands of those that we're expecting to enforce it. And I'm happy to tell you that today, the governor signed 5 pieces of legislation, some of which will, as small as allowing those entities that collect unused drugs to be able to get rid of them, to dispose of them, not only in a proper manner, but without having to go through a mountain of paperwork from DEP or other agencies regarding proper disposal of items. So now these drugs can be incinerated, and it will make it so much easier for those entities that we count on in our community when we do a drive for people to drop their drugs off. We have to start locally at a grassroots level. We have to start with those people who no longer have a need for a prescription to clean out their medicine cabinets and to get rid of those drugs in a proper fashion. to those entities that we want to get rid of them and not hamstring them in their efforts. Another item that was passed today was to control the prescriptions, monitor the prescriptions that are being written. And what it is a database, and it has to be updated within a 24-hour period by a pharmacist, so that if an individual goes for, if they go pharmacy shopping for drugs, that every stop of the way that they go to, there's a database to check to see if they previously received that same prescription. And I think that that is important in our efforts to combat this addiction. In our own community, you heard the statistics, how many people have been affected by it. And tonight is a starting point. Let's look at this as a starting point together with the number of people that I see right here in attendance now, that we're going to work together, not only as legislators and people in law enforcement, people in the judiciary, but people who are families and friends, so that they can help those who need the help and know where to send them to get the help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative Millard. Up next, we have Representative Kurt Masser.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. I think it's so important for all of our communities. Take a look at the board and take a look at the names. These aren't deadbeats. These aren't druggies. These aren't bad people. These are daughters, mothers, brothers, sisters that were good people and might have made some bad mistakes, bad choices, but good people. The top, I wrote my niece's name, Erica. You know, if you would have came to me a couple years ago and asked me, name somebody in your family that would never get involved with drugs, it was my niece Erica. She was the sweetest, most loving person, mother, daughter, niece. And 2 years ago, right before Thanksgiving, Erica died from a heroin overdose. Those two boys that delivered the drugs and watched her die were friends of my son's, good friends of my son's, good kids. I love those boys. They made bad decisions. This is about bringing our community together. As Dave said, it's going to take a whole lot of things. We passed a number of bills today. I was down with the governor to sign those bills into law, because after Erica's death, I threw myself into this wholeheartedly. It's personal to me now. Her son is going to see that her life and her death meant something, and I'm going to see to that. But as we go forward, it's going to take community efforts, it's going to take education, it's going to take rehabilitation, it's going to take all different parts, and this community coming together and realizing that these are real people, they're our loved ones. This is the first step, as Dave said, that we can make a difference, and together we'll make a difference throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you all so much for coming.
And so a couple of weeks ago, when it became very clear that this is a problem and we needed to do something like this, so I went before the county commissioners, who unanimously approved this memorial ceremony. And on behalf of all three county commissioners, I would like to welcome up here Dave Kovach.
Good evening. Problem? I don't have a drug problem. My family doesn't have a drug problem. My town, we certainly don't have a drug problem. The town across the tracks though, now they have a drug problem. Brother takes some prescriptions to help the pain from his recent injury. Dad is taking something because he's under a lot of stress at work. Sister's doing something, I don't know what it is, what she's taking, but Sis says it makes you feel really, really good, and all of her friends are doing it. Well, there is a drug problem. It's right here. And it doesn't care what side of the tracks that you come from. Regular folks, well-to-do folks, it doesn't care. Once the police and the courts are involved, it's way, way too late. Now, they do have awareness and other programs that do help, but the problem is so huge that they can't handle it with the resources that they have. So far, in 2016, 19 Columbia County people have died because of drug overdoses. 19. That's an insane number. Just picture 19 caskets with family members, our friends, our working associates stolen away from us because of drugs. And drugs sneak into our lives so many different ways, whether it's a pain medication or peer pressure, whatever it is. It will find us. It wants to find us. And the people that make the drugs, that's a business. That's a very lucrative business. They don't have to pay taxes. There is so much more that government, schools, the rehabs, and insurance companies, especially insurance companies, can do. At a recent drug court graduation, the speaker who came from the state, works for the state drug program, was actually a recovering addict. And once you're a recovering addict, if you're lucky enough to do that, if you don't end up in a casket, this man was very successful. He got a good job. So he goes out and he talks very frankly about his life, what he did. He stated, and this just burned into my brain, he says, there's a special place in hell for the insurance companies because they will pay for 30 days of rehab. That's not even the beginning. Once drugs grab you, you can't get loose. And if you're lucky enough to be a recovering alcoholic, that you admit that you have a problem, it's every day for the rest of your life. As a community, we need to stop and remember all those that have died, that got caught up in this and are no longer with us. We need to work with the people and the families that are struggling with addiction every single day. It's eating us alive. If you're lucky enough not to have a family member or know somebody, you're probably paying for it. I know you're paying for it because right here in the court system with all the trials, our prison, we were just talking with our public defender the other day, and he told us that 90% of his cases are drug related. 90%. We could eliminate millions of dollars from the county budget if we didn't have to deal with this particular issue. So we must all be vigilant, watch for signs for our children as young as middle school, even younger. If you're starting to see signs of something that wasn't normal, if they're backing away, they're closing up, if they're acting different, we need to be good parents, not their friend. We need to be their parents and act responsibly and question them and say, what are you doing? Why are you acting like this? We've all been to way too many funerals. The best drug problem is one that's never started. This is my good friend. I'd like to, if you don't know her, this is Louise Grove. I met her several years ago when we were putting together some drug awareness programs at 3 of our schools. And I've gotten to know her. Louise is very, very brave. She's an advocate to fight against drugs and drug addiction. Louise has her own story. Her daughter died of heroin overdose. She's so brave because she's here for every event. She has to live with not having her daughter every day. So what we must do is embrace those families that are suffering with this every day and not chastise them, but to love them. We love you. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave, for that. So I'm just going to let you know that my daughter died at 23 years of age after a 9-year addiction problem. She was 162 days clean at the time of her death, and I assume that she just said one more time. And one more time it was for her, and that was her last time. So, you know, it's very difficult. She doesn't suffer anymore, but there's many people who are left to suffer. Her family, her friends, her little boy. Her little boy is 6 years old, and we've adopted him. He's a wonderful little child, brilliant, and he misses his mom every day. This is the reason why we need to be educated. We need to know what to do. The children of our future are the ones that are truly going to suffer. We're adults. Yeah, we suffer. We hurt, we cry. But we somehow can get through that. Children don't understand, and they're the ones that truly suffer. And when my 6-year-old grandson, last Thursday, Friday night, turned to me while he was watching TV and said to me, "Grammy, I want to die." I said, "Well, why would you want to die?" He said, "So I can see my mommy." These are the reasons that we need to stick together. These are the reasons that we need to educate ourselves. These are the reasons that we need to reach out to somebody that's hurting. Somebody that you may suspect something. Just ask questions. If they get offended, it doesn't matter. Because if you don't ask, you may never help that person. So I just want to conclude by saying educate, spread the word, and always be kind to those that are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you both. Up next, Judge James.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to make a couple points. First of all, we're here as a memorial service and a remembrance, and my thoughts and prayers go out to all those who have been victimized by the scourge of drugs that's been going on for quite a while. But I've come to know a lot of the people on this board, and a piece of me dies with them when we've had the losses. As I think Representative Masser suggested, these are good people. These are fine people. We have a treatment court program where we meet with people who are in the throes of addiction and on the road to recovery every Tuesday. And I'm here to tell you, these are folks that 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, you would have thought, okay, these people are not people we want to deal with, not people we want to be around. I'm here to tell you, they're like children, they're like brothers, they're like sisters, they're like friends. They're wonderful, wonderful people who got caught in the throes of addiction. They got caught through prescription medication, which of course is the worst, and they got caught because of some of the predators out in the streets who prey upon those and suck them in for profit motive. So tonight, my thought, my prayers go out to all these wonderful people and their memory, and hopefully their memory will not be in vain. And I'd like to make 2 points in that regard. Number one, I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet with many people who are involved in a grassroots approach to the drug problem, the drug scourge that we have in the country. Across our community in particular, we see tons of people. I'll start with my friends and my colleagues on our treatment court people. They're so dedicated and wonderful people to deal with, and they're really devoting themselves to helping people. But it's not just our drug court. Let me go outside of that. All the people I've met that are many are here tonight. Max Furek from BATA. Every month for several years now, he's had a meeting to educate and to help and to reach out to people that need help. There's people from Genzenzia House, the counselors. I see people in medical community. Dr. Rack is here tonight, and others. We've had our state representatives and some of the people involved in local government who have been involved in this. They aren't just here tonight for show. They've been involved with this from day one. They're very sincere in their commitment. We've seen individuals like Louise and Louise Grove and others who have been individuals getting things going. Agape has been involved. There's these little points of light, and it's a community organization. And last but not least, I'm sure I missed a lot, but Dave Reilly, Nancy Reilly, Joe Reilly, WHLM have done tons to get the word out there and get awareness out there on the drug problem. Now, the last point I wanted to make is, what's the solution to this? It isn't going to happen just from grassroots movement like this. It has to start with our lawmakers, our legislators, probably on a national as well as a state level. It cannot be couched in terms of tough on crime. It cannot be couched in terms of the war on drugs, which since I've been involved in the law since the 70s has failed. It's been miserable. It has to be couched in terms of a severe medical problem. It's a severe medical problem. Sure, there's some criminal activity that could be addressed within the terms of it. If we do just that, this is going to continue to be a failure. And I'm not so sure our national legislators get that, and Kurt and Dave, I'm not sure that our state representatives get that, so please try to educate them. We need to reach out to experts in the field, develop a national policy, treat it as a medical problem, not as a criminal problem. The criminal system cannot deal with this. It shouldn't deal with this, and it's a failure when it deals with it. And that's what we've been doing. I've been seeing this for many years. It's not working. So I'd ask the legislators, please reach out. And all of you, please say a prayer tonight for all of those that we've lost to drug addiction, the people on the board, others. Dave suggested there were 19 we've lost this year. I suggested, Dave, that maybe even more because some people aren't even counted in that number. So in any event, thank you, Dave, for putting all this together. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Up next, we have a mother who's lost her son to this terrible, terrible scourge, who's now founded a nonprofit that is here to help families deal with a lost mother, a lost son, Alissa Depoe.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My son passed away October 2014. He died from an accidental overdose of a drug called amitriptyline. They also found traces of fentanyl in his system. But ultimately, it was the prescription that killed him. It was supposed to help him with depression. We have no clue why and why it killed him. It just stored in his body and released. So as you're going through these processes with your family, if you know anyone who is taking drugs to help them from the addiction, please make sure they get monitored. Make sure every time if they have an issue, they go to the doctors or they go to the hospital, make sure their levels are checked. My son's was missed and now he's not with us. Well, when Michael passed away, he had no life insurance, 23 years old. We were devastated just with the loss, and then you have the financial part to deal with. My brother, Halloween of 2014, I had buried my son. My brother came up with an idea of doing a fundraiser to pay for his marker stone. Well, we were a success. We held a fundraiser called the Mikey Mash. We just had our second annual this year. We've helped 2 families who were in financial difficulties from losing their young person. Just so you know, we're here. Anyone can donate to the Mikey Mash. We're with the First Columbia Bank. Anyone can walk in there anytime and donate. This money will help our families in our area that lose a person in their family from addiction. We've moved on from young person and child to anyone that needs it. So please check us out. Right now we don't have a website, but we are on Facebook. It's called Mikey Mash, Mikey B. Strickland Annual Event. We will be having more events through the year next year, we're planning. So please keep an eye out for us, and I'm sure that we will be on WHLM when we have things come up, our events. Okay, thank you.
Just like Judge James said, this is a problem, and it's a problem that has been bred in ignorance. And the only way out is for not only the addicts, but the families of addicts and other members of the community to educate themselves. And like the judge said, somebody that's been doing this for years and years and years is Max Furek of the Berwick Anti-Drug Alliance. He's here tonight. Please welcome him.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for being here this evening. Back in February of 2014, we lost American actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Phil was in recovery. He started to dabble with the prescription drugs, and the prescription drugs became the gateway to his death by heroin overdose. Right around that time, Attorney General Eric Holder said that we were in the midst of an urgent public health crisis, and Holder identified both prescription drugs and heroin as the substances of concern. That was in 2014. Now, 2 years later, where are we? And the question needs to be asked, are things better or are they worse? If you look at the statistics, we'll see that prescription drug death has surpassed the deaths of heroin and cocaine combined. So prescription drugs are certainly something to be considered. If you look at some comparisons, Mexican and Colombia drug cartels bring in something like $39 billion in profit from the drugs that they import into this country. Big pharmaceutical companies bring in over $300 billion in revenue. Several weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go down to Washington, D.C. with Berwick Chief of Police Ken Strish and also WHLM's Dave Reilly, and they told us that American pharmaceutical companies, and they called them legitimate American drug cartels, but they told about the 16 lobbyists that are assigned to every senator and representative there in the Capitol. And you have to ask yourself, I know we're here looking for questions, but looking for answers, but I'm just filled with a lot of questions about what we're going to do about this. Those lobbyists do things to forward their corporate interests. They care more about their corporate bottom line than they do about the American people. A couple of examples. In 1990, JACO, the Joint Commission for Hospital Accreditation, began to ask about pain. When people were admitted into institutions and hospitals, they would ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? That was the beginning of doctors who began to prescribe narcotic pain relievers. And again in 2000, this is from all those lobbyists from big pharmaceutical companies, in the year 2000 we had direct-to-consumer advertising, and you remember where you were in your living room sitting on the couch watching TV when all of a sudden there were ads for cholesterol and erectile dysfunction, and now the latest one, the opioid-induced constipation. All a means of furthering the corporate agenda, another means of separating us from our money. As Tom James said, we need to fight this. We need to fight this on many levels, but one of the levels is we need our political folks out there, we need our legislators to take a look at the power and the reach that the American pharmaceutical companies have. We know that they fund legislative campaigns. We know that they have a whole lot of money and clout, and we need to go and take a look at this. We have a problem with the American pharmaceutical companies. Thank you for listening to what I had to say.
And now we come to the crux of the evening. I would like to ask for a long moment of silence to commemorate not only the 19 people that died due to drug overdoses this year, but for every drug overdose that we've experienced with our friends, our family, our parents, our sons and daughters. So while we have this moment of silence, I will be extinguishing 19 flames that are up here on the courthouse that represent the 19 lives
that we lost this year. Thank you. I didn't really prepare anything, and this is actually more overwhelming than I thought it would be. But I really hope that this marks a new chapter in our town, in our county, in our community, where this will no longer be tolerated. I'm sick of losing my friends. I'm sick of hearing about people in comas, dying, getting sick. I'm sick of watching people enable. And I want to thank every one of you for coming out. This is more important than I think any of us really understand. The people that this touches, people that you would never know. They carry this burden, and you never know. So let's take this opportunity while we're here together to start talking, to start a community dialogue. The movers, the shakers, the police, the judges, the representatives, they're all here. Let them know what we need. And get educated. Thank you.